Hey everyone, we're going to try this one more time. Facebook is being super glitchy, and I'm going to completely blame it on Facebook because this platform sometimes is glitchy when it comes to lives, and as of yesterday, with it going down, I'm just going to blame it there. So Veronika should be joining us shortly. What the? I didn't do that. I didn't even touch anything. See? I'm going to say that. So for those of you just joining us, Veronika is a flutist in the Birmingham, UK Symphony Orchestra, and we recently had her on as a guest of the Tuned and Strong podcast. You can get that podcast wherever you get podcasts, and here she is. I have bring her on. And you can also access that on YouTube and on my webpage. And there she is.
Oh my God.
What? That was such a big mess. We tried for like 30 minutes. I blame it on Facebook completely.
Okay. Sorry. And now it appeared, the icon, so I have no idea what that was about.
I don't either. But
I'm so happy I actually got to go on. I just totally gave up.
I know. I thought, man, it's been like 30 minutes. What's going on? I tried like 5 different videos.
I really felt for you because I was here and I was watching and it was like a one-woman show. You just kept talking about the podcast.
But there's no way to pause it, so you just kind of have to roll with it. So, if I'm going to post this other places, you don't want all this dead air where you're like, I'm just going to wait.
Anyway,
it's okay.
A little bit stressful.
It's Facebook's fault.
Yeah, that's very nice of you.
Yeah, no, well, I mean, they did go down yesterday and they are glitchy, so I'm just going to blame them.
Let's just, okay. I'm going to be nice to myself and also say
it's not your fault. It's not your fault. I've had this happen another time with another guest, and he had a horrible time with it. So, actually, 2 other guests. Maybe I should just quit with Facebook Lives.
Yeah, and then,
I don't know.
Anyway, how are you? I see that you're driving somewhere or riding somewhere.
No, I'm not driving. I'm in my car, but I'm not driving.
Okay,
I promise.
good.
I'm like hanging out in a parking lot. We're fine.
Oh, I see. That'd be a bit dangerous.
How are you?
I'm very good.
No.
I'm very good. Thank you.
Yeah, so I was just telling everybody about the episode
for half an hour.
For like half an hour. Yep, different times on the Tuned and Strong podcast, where we had you on as a guest, and we talked about your phone is getting warm. I know that. Wow, that's because I've been doing this for half an hour. I'm going to put it in front of the vent and see if this helps. There we go. So we had you on as a guest, and we mentioned what things were like as a symphony orchestra member, dealing with injury, what that stigma is like, all those kinds of things. Can you elaborate a little bit on what has been your experience with that?
I was gonna say, you said the stigma around injury. I was like, how long do you have?
Right.
No, so my experience, my injury happened, I think, at the beginning of April this year, and I have to say, like, today I had a 6-hour rehearsal, and I don't feel any pain, like, at all. Like, it's pretty amazing because I had to stop playing for a while. So that was the first time for me that I had to do that. I counted 22 years of playing the flute. So that's also not so bad, right? I mean, it I went for 22 years without having an injury. So it was a bit of a surreal experience at first because I didn't expect that. Also, being a wellbeing practitioner. So really the first kind of reaction was just not believing it at first, and then also I think shame because you have this sort of idea that you should know better than to get injured as a musician, as a professional musician. That was the initial response, right? And then also being a well-being practitioner, you have this idea that you should also know better, which of course neither of those is really true, right? Like, it can happen, and you've been sharing those statistics that up to 93% of people experience something like this. So it can happen, and I just had to sort of process that for myself and sit with it as well. After a while, I sort of first I think I jumped into like, oh yeah, I'll just start postponing my classes and get this ultrasound and this and that. And I think I kind of bypassed actually like stopping and thinking, okay, well, this happened. Let's just sit with it for a while and process it, because it is a big thing, you know, if you have to really take time off work because of a limitation like that. So I did that like a few weeks later. It was also like a process. But yeah, I did it actually, in hindsight, like sort of touch wood, I'm, you know, it's, the worst is over, and now I'm back at work full time. Like now the schedule is really like full time again, I think for the first time since the pandemic. So it went from like pandemic, holiday, oh yeah, here we go, like full time schedule. But I have to say, yeah, I in hindsight, there have been some silver linings in that. You know, I got a really good physiotherapist, and I did some of my own research into it, and we've started working together, which has been really great. And honestly, like, yeah, I've done a lot of work on shoulder stability since then, since the injury. But still, I in a way, I can't believe that, you know, on a busy week like this, I don't really even feel pain. Like,
that's wonderful. Oh, that's so exciting. That's so encouraging too. What was the injury that you had?
So it's the AC joint irritation.
Right.
So this is the joint, so on my left shoulder, so where the clavicle joins the acromion of the shoulder. So it's kind of by, you know, like playing the flute, you have the arm like this all the time, so it's kind of squeezing at the front, and then at the back it gets lengthened, right? And maybe I also had some kind of I would be compensating, maybe the shoulder went up a little bit, you know. And I don't think I'm the only flute player to have this injury. I think amongst flute players this is quite common.
There's no way.
Yeah. So the physiotherapist really said, like, yeah, your textbook, like, AC joint, like, irritation, inflammation probably at first as well, at the beginning.
Yeah, so that would be in here, and is it right side or left side?
Left side for me, yeah.
Yeah, so for those who don't know, to play flute, left arm comes across the body. Yeah. That means that the left arm is going to be coming this way. That AC joint can get compressed and irritated and inflamed and all those other things. I think I have a bass player right now with that same problem. Or is it SC joint? Sternoclavicular is here, where I don't know why my body does that when you touch it. So sternoclavicular joint is here, and the AC joint is here. So it's the same thing where you bring the arm in front of the body, and it can get irritated and inflamed. So.
Yeah, so this is like part of the stuff that we've been doing, right? Basically, like some self-massage, quite a bit. So really releasing the area, stretching. And oh my God, like I've been doing that stretch like against the sort of in the doorway where you sort of turn out. And like this arm, like I have to put it further and further up because I don't feel it now when it's down, like, you know, parallel to the shoulder.
Like 90 degrees.
Sort of worked on it, and now actually that's not even an issue now, really. Like before and after I play, it's more about sort of activating the core and the back muscles and sort of deep neck flexors, doing some exercises. I'm there like in rehearsal with my yellow stretchy band just doing my pull-off presses.
Oh, I love it.
And it's kind of, you know, sorry?
I would just say, go ahead.
Yeah, it's kind of like I also had to go like get past this kind of like, oh, should I really do my stretches in front of other people? And I was like, you know what, like F this, like this is just too important. But I think that also like goes along with the stigma that you almost don't want to like showcase, you know, that you're warming up that way, even though, like, I was thinking about this, anyone will warm up like doing scales or anything like that, but somehow when you do these exercises you kind of feel like you should go to the corner and you know, I noticed this with myself, and I was just thinking, no, you have to do it because it's the only way it will become normal. Like if people actually start doing it.
Yes, because we look at anybody who does that as weird. Why are you doing that? It's
Yeah.
so not the norm. It's not normal. It's not taught to physically warm up your body. And we
Mm.
see anybody who is as, oh, you've got a problem.
Yeah.
You have to do that. I don't have to do that.
And actually it's the opposite, and I was thinking maybe let's reframe that, right? It's not that I have a problem that I have to sort of do it, it's that I want to be better. Like I
Yeah.
want to actually like keep playing and not be in pain and not be distracted by, oh, my back hurts and I can't stand it anymore. Like that's, it's
Yes.
actually, yeah, no one would say that if you were playing scales you have a problem, like you're not perfect enough to just like sit down and play straight away. So I don't think, you know, it just, I think it's just we need to change the mindset a little bit about it, around it.
Definitely. And I love what you said just then about it. So often we just push through pain because we don't want anybody to know we're dealing with something. And let's think about it. Okay, where I am right now, I just got done with physical therapy for this issue that I've been dealing with for 2 years with the numbness and the tingling. And the problem is what he said is you're one of the most difficult cases I've ever seen. It's just complicated with you because I'm hypermobile and it's coming from several different areas from several different reasons. And doing the army job that I have and the music job that I have is compounding the issue. It's not that we can't overcome it. It's just making it more difficult.
Yeah.
So, you know, he's like, it's somewhat thoracic outlet. It's somewhat double crush syndrome. It's somewhat cervical radiculopathy. It's all these things. But then, you know, the point being, you said we play through pain and it becomes a distraction. How much better is it if you take care of yourself and you don't have to just focus on avoiding focusing on pain? You just get to play the music. Yeah. Why do we see ourselves as martyrs, being like, this is just part of the gig? It doesn't have to be.
Yeah, and there is kind of a culture of pushing through really in the music industry, I think. There has been. But yeah, I was in pain a little bit yesterday because I didn't do enough of my exercises, right? And that I knew why, and I knew what to do. So I did them in the evening, and you know, so I think it like that, like talking about yesterday and being a little bit in pain with my back, I was irritated, you know, in the rehearsal, and that's not really like the way I want to show up. Like,
no, that affects your music making, right?
Yeah.
You just want to focus on playing music, not avoiding thinking about something that hurts and like, let me just try to stop thinking about that. You ever try to stop thinking about something? That's all you think about.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
Yeah.
But I think we had that conversation on Facebook as well, you and I, and you said something about, you know, people are never taught about how to avoid an injury, but yet it's just seen as something wrong if you get it, right? So there's this kind of, really, it doesn't make any sense. And you know, even in my case, right, I've got some tools now, and at the moment I'm fine. It doesn't mean it will never happen again. It could, right? I mean, there's less of a chance now, but you know, it could happen, and if it does, then it doesn't mean that I'm like a bad musician because you have an injury. But I think in my head, like that initial reaction was there, right? Like it shouldn't have happened. And so, you know, I kind of have had that self-awareness to notice it and sort of work through it. But you know, I can imagine like this is sort of like what people experience when it happens to them, which is why it's so great that, you know, you're doing what you're doing. Talking about these things.
Yes, and I'm really glad you're also talking about these things. Speaking of which, you have a group. Would you like to tell people what the group is that you have?
Yeah, so it's called Wellbeing for Musicians. So very straightforward. So clue
As
is
it
in the
should be.
title. And yeah, so I think this has been really useful in the group to sort of talk about some of those issues that are seen as a little bit of a stigma. Like we've just had a conversation about, or post about, have you ever been bullied by a conductor, or things like you never ever discuss, you know. So it's kind of really nice to be able to share, and I think even by people seeing that they're not the only person whom this has happened to, like much like with injuries, I think even that can be helpful. Like, okay, I'm so not the only one who experiences problems. So
Right.
yeah.
Right.
So I
There's
like
good
to hang out
camaraderie
there. I think too much. I have to sort of like watch myself not to, you know, like not to kind of be there too much and, you know, check it too much for myself.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So the group is called Wellbeing for Musicians, and that's on Facebook, yeah?
Yes, it's here.
Beautiful. So where can, now I mentioned that it's in the show notes of the Tuned and Strong podcast, wherever you get your podcasts, and on YouTube and on my website, musicstrong.com. But other than that, where can people find you and engage with you? And maybe somebody has questions and they're like, yes, you're speaking to me. Oh my goodness. How do I talk to you?
Yeah, so the easiest place is musiciansyoga.veronika.com, my website. And I'm on Facebook as well. And I will be on Instagram. I think it's time. But the website kind of has all the info and all the contact details. Yeah.
Yeah. So for anybody who doesn't know, Veronika does yoga for musicians.
That's true.
We can talk about that.
Yeah.
That's okay. Real quick, how did you get started with yoga? How did that come to be?
Yeah, so yoga started for me with back pain from playing the flute. That was my way into yoga and really just wanting to get fit. But I really got hooked from the first moment, and it kind of made sense to me that because I loved it so much, I wanted to teach it. So I went to India in 2018 and I did a training, and I think there I had that sort of light bulb moment, like, oh, this would be so good for musicians. Like we put so much pressure on ourselves. So that's what I've been doing since then. But I think really once I started doing strength training, resistance training, it kind of was that last piece in the puzzle, or I don't know if the last, but it was the piece that was missing. For me, the combination really works.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that yoga gives you that really great that balance work, that flexibility work, mobility work somewhat, and there's so many benefits to it, but it does go really well with strength training, and you have to be able to be strong and stable. And you know, working on, I actually had a consult with somebody in a violist in Switzerland yesterday, and she's like, I need muscles, which I know is funny, but really it wasn't that. It was also, she's like, I had an injury, I've taken some time off, now I want to get back into playing, but I want to do it smart and safe, and I think I need to be strong so this doesn't happen again. I was like, yes, ma'am, that's exactly it.
It's good that they arrived at that, like,
yes,
right. And yeah,
I was gonna say, this is why you need to be on Instagram, because she's been following me on Instagram.
Oh, good. Okay. No, I was gonna say, you know, I love all kinds of movement, like resistance training, definitely. I think with yoga, it's kind of, what I really appreciate is kind of the way it can nourish the nervous system. That's a bit, and the way you can kind of tune out the outside world. It's kind of, you know, that centering, which for me, that's kind of unique to it. But yes, in terms of movement, I think you really need variety, and you definitely need some kind of resistance training if you're a musician. Especially like when we're talking about injuries, like that's the way. Like that's the way to go, man.
Yeah, you can be as mobile as you want, but if you're lacking in stability, the only thing that's going to get you that is some resistance training. And that's also really helpful. So when you go to physio or PT, what are they doing? It's resistance training. It's the same thing, but there are different levels of it. So you don't, if you're into, like, we interviewed Mackenzie Cooper. She's a power lifter. We interviewed Alison Royal, who's a violist, and she's into strongman stuff. We interviewed you, who's into resistance training. We've interviewed all kinds of people, and there's all these different types and levels and styles of resistance training,
Yes.
and they all have their place. So it's not just one, like, you don't have to be a bodybuilder, but if you want to be a bodybuilder, you can be. I mean, there are all these levels, and you just have to find the one that fits for you.
It's great, right? Like, I love lifting heavy things. Like, it feels great, man. Like, especially afterwards, like, it's great for confidence. But even if you just like grab some resistance bands and do, you know, like a few exercises for injury prevention, like you don't need to, like you say, you don't need to be a power lifter to do resistance training, but like do it. It's gonna help.
Yeah. And what I love is that you're doing the things backstage, like you mentioned, you know, you're doing your payloft presses and stuff. And it's not just about stretching backstage. I had another client who, her shoulder blades hurt, and she told me what she was doing. And it sounds like all she was doing was stretching. Well, there's two sides of the coin, you know, stretch what's tight, but then you have to strengthen what's weak. And if you only do the one, you could be making the problem worse, which is, I mean, why I do what I do.
And I think for me, I need less stretching after playing now that I have more stability. Like stretching is nice and it's part of the equation, right? But yeah, like you say, like if you only stretch before, only stretch after, that's not going to really, you know, prevent the issues or you know, be 100% helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's nice to hear somebody else say that, especially somebody who's doing it and has seen the benefits of it. So I'm glad to hear that you had a 6-hour
Absolutely.
rehearsal.
I'm a convert. Yes.
That's awesome. So congratulations, you guys are back to full time and like back to it and you're feeling good. I'm so excited to hear that. That's just awesome. So, okay. So is there anything else that you want to share with anybody? I'm trying to keep my phone cool in front of the bed.
Oh, just to say sorry for the beginning. Like I'm so happy I actually got on.
I know. You know, I'm gonna blame Facebook, seriously. So
no,
I'm gonna save this.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you, for the invitation and also for just having these conversations is so important. I really think it is.
Absolutely. I totally agree. And I'm going to be saving this and sharing this on Instagram and on YouTube and on my Facebook, everything. So, no, well, fingers crossed. But this has been a fantastic conversation, Veronika. Thank you so much for joining, and thank you for agreeing to be on our podcast. We really enjoyed having you.
It was so much fun.
Yeah, you guys go and listen to it, and then contact her and leave all kinds of good comments so we can get this dialogue started. So we normalize doing exercises backstage.
Yes, maybe I'll do a video and share it.
Please do. Please do. And
Pile
tag me.
of presses in Birmingham.
Oh, that'd be awesome. Please do. Like, show us how you're #music strong. These are my scapular wall slides. These are my payloft presses. We'll make a whole reel about it. It'll be fun.
All the stretching, Angela. All the stretching I do before and after.
No, don't show that. We've already seen it. All right. Thank you for joining us, Veronika.
Thank you. Pleasure. Thanks very much.
Have a good day. Bye.